This segment of the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast is sponsored in part by Dark Horse Tackle. Go to darkhorsetackle.com and use promo code BKB5 to save an extra $5 when you build your own box. Douglas Outdoors. Serious rods for serious anglers. Norsk Lithium. The lithium kayak battery you need is just a click away. Go to norsklithium.com. Catch Outdoors, the official measuring board for all 3 national trails. Go to catchoutdoors.com and use promo code BKB5 to save 5% on your next online purchase. What is going on, everyone? I hope you're having a great, Thursday. I feel like I'm doing this for the first time all over again. I just got back from Alaska. The last 2 shows were pre-recorded, and last week I didn't even have a show. So I just got back. I was too tired to do any shows, but I'm back. So again, bear with me. I'm trying to get back into this. Quick shout out to everybody that's watching on Facebook or YouTube Live. I got Metal Jones, Zachariah Fuller from Dark Horse Tackle. What's up, What's shaking, Armando? Zach, thanks you for joining. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions for the guest today. It's going to be Adam Fraser. You know what? I should have asked him how to pronounce his last name before I went live. So I'll just call him Adam for now. He runs he's host of the River Run podcast and Paddle and Fin. I used to be part of the Paddle and Fin family a couple of years ago. I love being part of Paddle and Fin. Now I'm doing my own thing with my podcast, but I always like to support everybody that's on Paddle and Fin. Brian Schiller and everybody in Paddle and Fin, Susie Roloff, they're all like family to me. And I hope to get to see some of Paddle and Fin family up in ICAST next week. But anyways, let's bring our guest in for today. Before I keep talking, before I do bring my guest, quick shout out to the sponsors, Norsk Lithium. They're coming up with a new battery. It's going to be debuting in ICAST. So I plan to be over there, record some content, interview some of the good people at Norsk Lithium to talk about their new lithium batteries and new things they got coming up. And of course, if you're looking for a battery, go check out norsklithium.com. Douglas Outdoors. Thank you, Douglas Outdoors. They're the one sponsoring my entry fee into iCast, so I don't have to worry about that. So I appreciate everybody at Douglas Outdoors. Check out the new Era rods. If you live in Texas, we do have the new Era rods at East Texas Paddle Sport, which is run by Lance McWhorter. We're also sponsoring the East Texas Trail. We're giving out a rod at each and every one of their stops, either for the big bass winner or for the winner of the trail that day. The Era rods are great rods. They're under $100, and they're amazing rods. Go check them out. Dark Horse Tackle, of course, Catch Outdoors, and Mariner Sales. If you live in the DFW Metroplex and you're looking to get on a kayak, Mariner Sales has the biggest inventory on kayaks and kayak accessory anywhere near the DFW Metroplex. So go check them out. Without further ado, let's bring in Adam. Adam, buddy, first of all, I apologize. How do you pronounce your last name? I should have asked that before. That was number 1 on my list, and I forgot.
No, that's all right, dude. My last name, the way it's pronounced, is Pros. So you did pretty well, I have to say. It's so
it's Adam. How do you pronounce
Pros? Yeah, Pros, just like that.
So I'm confused. Hold up. You got Adam, Pros, and what's the other word there?
Yeah, so word? I go by Adam Fraser.
Oh, okay.
That's Fraser's my middle name. So
perfect. So that's glad I cleared that up. And sorry I didn't ask that before. I should have.
No, that's all good, man.
So, how's everything, man?
No, dude. I'm well, man. Thursday night, we're here. We're doing a podcast. This is fun. I'm excited for the weekend to start, and also excited to hear about your trip to Alaska, which that's pretty neat. Going Texas to Alaska. That's probably a pretty good little airplane ride right there.
I've never even been anywhere to like the Pacific Northwest, either to Alaska, Portland, Seattle, even Vancouver. Oddly enough, I almost got a job with what's at that time Immigration Naturalization Service. Before, actually, after what happened in September 11th, in September 11 attacks, I used to work at the airport. They were hiring, so I used to manage the security at the airport back then in Puerto Rico. So I was always rubbing shoulders with guys from INS, Customs, Security, Federal Air Marshals. So I made a good reputation with them. They offered me a job, and I was actually supposed to go to Vancouver to work over there, like in that kind of border patrol thing between obviously United States and Canada. But I never, it went through all the channels of, instead of going, now I was going to go from INS to Homeland Security, then the change in presidency, and it kept getting kicked out the line. Like 3 years later, finally, they reached out to me, says, hey, we got your position open. And by that, I had already moved on to other things.
Yeah.
So I never took the job. But I fell in love with the idea of that area of Seattle, Vancouver, because I think it's beautiful up there.
So that would be I believe it's Bellingham, Washington.
I'll trust you on that.
I feel like, because that's I can't be certain, but that's the crossing that we would, when I was living out in Vancouver, that's the crossing we would use to go to like Seattle, Spokane, Bellingham, Washington. So
I don't know. I was actually gonna work in the Canadian side. Like they even had, I even had a diplomatic passport issue, which I never got because they kept it until I accepted the job. So I think it was in Vancouver.
Cool, man. Very cool.
But going back to that, yes, I went from Texas, jumped all the way to Alaska. Didn't even do any stops over in Seattle, Vancouver, which I always wanted to go.
That's cool.
Alaska was something different. This was organized by my brother-in-law, so my sister's husband, and who's from Germany. They live in Austin, and his brother, who lives in Germany, he flew down. I shouldn't say flew down. Flew up to Alaska, and we met him there. He's kind of a goofball, but his idea, it was their idea to go to Alaska to go fishing for sockeye salmon, freshwater, and then halibut. Which I don't know. That's how you pronounce it, halibut?
Yeah, halibut.
That's
halibut. I think it's halibut.
Halibut, right?
Halibut, yeah.
Because it's depending. If you're in Alaska, it's pronounced one way. If you're in Canada, it's pronounced another way. And if you're in Texas,
what do they call it down in Texas? Just out of curiosity.
I'm assuming it's halibut. And keep in mind, I'm half Texas and half Puerto Rican. So
that's cool, man. That's cool.
And it was funny because the brother from my brother-in-law, he's from Germany, and he used to say Solomon, and it's like, it's not Solomon, it's Solomon. But then I found out over there it's called different. It's pronounced different.
They like to fish for perch and pike. That's
they don't have any pikes actually. In Alaska. So if you find a pike in Alaska, you're obligated by law to kill it. They know that it's an invasive species.
Fair enough.
And I thought that it was something like people like release them, but it says no. It has to do something with migratory birds. Somebody explained it to me. I don't understand the science, and I'm not gonna start BSing.
Sure, I can see where you're going with it, though.
Yeah,
like I understand what you mean.
I'm not a biologist on it, but yeah, if you find a pike, you're if you're fishing and you caught a pike, you're obligated to kill it, which is interesting.
When you flew up there, like what was the weather like? And like, just curious, are they on that cycle where it's like 24 hours of sunlight?
20 hours of sunlight, 4 hours at night. And when I say night, it's just like dawn or dusk. It's not like dark. It's you can see a little bit of a light out of the horizon, which kind of messed with my jet lag because now I'm like 2 or 3 hour difference from Texas. I think it's like 2. And then plus, I'd be
you're probably midnight. Like 3 hour difference right there.
Yeah, and it's midnight, and it's like noon. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. How do I always thought about that, like how weird that would be, like, to your system, like you got to think about that. Like, you're now dealing with time zone, and then you're dealing with light almost all the time, no darkness. So your brain never gets like a chance to, I guess you need like sun light blocking curtains, or
which I didn't have, by the way, on my lodge, but
yeah, hopefully you brought one, maybe board your wife's eye cover thing here. But yeah, no,
shout out to Cam Steele from oh my god, Faith and Fishing podcast. What's up, gents? Shout out to Cam Steele. Nice to see you here, Cam. It was interesting. One of the things that I did not expect was I went for fishing, so I figured I'd see wildlife. I didn't think I would see wildlife like up in my face, like bears. Okay, when you go fishing I went fishing to the Russian River. Cool. It's bears are like pigeons. Like if here, like they're everywhere. I thought maybe I'll see a bear. Brown bears, black bears, they're everywhere. They walk up right next to you. They don't care. They're eating probably the carcasses of everybody that's fishing for salmon.
Yeah, it's probably all the fish.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. I put it on my stories, all the bears encounters that I have. Like,
yeah,
people
I saw
were
some of those, dude.
I had some people DM me kind of like, "Are you stupid? Are you crazy?" It's like, dude, what can I do? Like, they're everywhere. They're all around you.
An adrenaline rush, you know what I mean? Like, you're fishing for, one, you're fishing for the bear's food.
Yeah.
So if I was a bear and I saw you, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm probably gonna go check this guy out because he's catching all my food. He's making it easy for me right now. 2 meals in one. Like, you got it. Like, some of the bears up in Alaska, like I remember some of the ones just in British Columbia, like, wow, like they are big machines, like
like 9-10 foot tall when they stand up. This one, they were not that big, but nevertheless they were big. What scared me more than that is I actually have a citation for it because I didn't know, because they didn't label that area as a sanctuary. So I fish an area between the Russian River and the Kenai River, or the Kenai, whatever. And it's just a huge flat, so it's water up to your knees and salmon everywhere. Yeah. So I'm fishing there, and all of a sudden the game warden comes out. They issue me a citation. I think it's something like $180, which I probably won't pay because I live in Texas. But I was like, there's no signs in here. Like, oh, well, you should have gotten a brochure. It's like when you got the license. I got the license by internet. Like, they didn't mail me a brochure or anything like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to argue with them. I'm not going to be one of those people disrespect the law.
Yeah, because usually the fines just get deeper that way. You know what I mean? Like, it like hits you with something else, and you're like,
I'm like, stopped. Go find me in Texas and look for the money. But anyways, what scared me most is, like, from the Kenai River, there's this huge female moose with its fawn swimming up the river. They get up to the flat, and I'm right in the middle. On the bank, on a point, there was two guys fishing. So that thing had nowhere to go but, like, in between both of us, and he walked straight towards me. And I'm more scared of a moose, which I've never seen one in person. I didn't know those things are the size of an elephant, and I know I'm exaggerating, but I did not know that. I'm used to Texas whitetail reindeer. I saw moose. I'm like, this thing is tower.
Yeah. We have moose in Ontario, and there used to be a stretch of highway that I would take, and there was a few times where, like, you would see a moose that had been hit by a car, or you'd see it like trotting through the snow, and the snowbanks, like, it's pretty deep, and that thing is like it's just making its kneecaps go through, and you're like, it still has another 6 feet to go, and you're like, my God, that thing's huge. Or just seeing it laid out on the road, it's like, wow, the sheer size of some of those. And, like, I can only imagine the ones with the actual, like, antlers on the thing, like, just wow. Like, I couldn't imagine going through the bush and hearing that thing come along, like, or especially with a cow, the calf with it too. Like, you probably got a pretty protective mother right there.
Yeah.
So
Thankfully, it kind of looked my way, looked the other way where the other guy was, and decided to go right down the middle. But I was like, I'm not going to be able to run this in knee-high water.
Yeah.
If you go to my Instagram account, you'll see the video. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I saw. I had 2 days of fishing for sockeye salmon, and we were going to meet up with a guide. There was another guide on his way. We saw the aftermath. We didn't see the accident, but one of the guys that was doing the guided fishing hit a moose with his pickup truck. I like a Ram or F-150, whatever it was. That truck got destroyed.
Yeah, and the thing probably got up and walked away.
Yeah, that thing, I'm assuming there were no carcasses. It probably died somewhere in the woods. But that truck was unusable. Yeah. That it was you think that truck hit a semi or something.
Yeah, it's wild. The sheer damage that those animals can do. And I've seen videos of them getting like hit by a car or a truck, and it's like the car or truck is a complete write-off, and that thing just gets up, walks across the road. Maybe it has some severe internal injuries. I don't know, but you're just like, wow. But we had a buddy of mine who he got into an accident last year, and he had a moose on his way to go fishing, and his car was like a write-off, to the point that I saw the pictures of it and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's scary. Like, you wonder how that person made it through, because like those things are just like, it looks like you just hit a brick wall straight on.
Yep.
So yeah,
the immensity of their size is just
the joys of driving in Canada. We have some crazy wildlife.
You can hit like 1,000-pound bear or 1,000-pound whatever moose, or
you go west and they got all the bighorn sheep out there that come across the road, and it's definitely lots of wildlife the further north you go, for sure.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. But it was fun, man. Halibut fishing, never done that. That's more of a touristy kind of thing. They got everything set up. You just kind of reel in the fish. But we had a guy that was fishing, one of the tourists that was fishing, actually a young guy. His name is Levy from Alaska, another part of Alaska. He caught a 200-pound halibut. That was I actually have that video on Instagram. The captain, which you can tell it was not his first rodeo, he was like, all right, we got a big one. Let me go get my gun. As soon as it took him like 15, 20 minutes to get that fish all the way from 100 feet deep, all the way to the boat side. And he just 5 shots on a Glock, bam, 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 and then just brought him in. I'm like, this is very different. This feels Texan, but it's not Texan. This feels like I'm in Texas. We don't have halibut in Texas.
I was just going to ask you about that. The whole handgun part. Just popping him like that. Like
I feel like I was in Texas, minus the cold weather.
maybe he just wanted to give you like the Texas feel. That let's give that fish the Texas special. And just pop. Okay.
But 5 rounds on that thing.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Awesome. Sockeye salmon, amazing. I've never fished for it. Have you fished ever for sockeye salmon or any type of salmon?
Yeah. I have had the outings to go sockeye salmon fishing, and Pacific salmon, and I've done like lake trout and rainbow trout. I've never done lake trout. There was another small trout that we would go for too. Brook
trout. No, brook trout is East Coast, right?
Brook trout. I have never actually caught a brook trout. I've seen them, but I just don't. I'm not a trout fisherman. So, but now knowing some of the places I go that they're around, and I did a recent trip to upstate New York, the Adirondacks, and I had met somebody who was big into trout fishing, and he kind of in some ways inspired me to go and try and catch some trout. And we had gone out that day and some of these little back ponds, and it was pretty neat. We caught everything but trout, but it was cool. So it kind of inspired me to want to go and take out these little micro kind of finesse style baits and try it out. So yeah.
It's fishing for sockeye salmon was interesting. This coming from a bass fishing DNA, bass fishing, there goes a lot into trying to figure out the bite. Smallmouth bass or largemouth bass, you know how it is. Snagging on purpose, a bass is going to give you the Mike Long treatment, and you're going to be banned from bass fishing forever. Like you don't. That's probably the worst sin you can do as a bass fisherman is snagging. Yeah. And then sockeye salmon to me was like, I thought I was going to be like fly fishing for sockeye salmon. And there's like, no, you use a fly rod, which you can use any rod. You can use a spinning rod, you can do bait casting. But they don't eat. I think silver salmon, you can, give them that bass treatment where you can try to trick them into biting your lure. But sockeye salmon is like, they have one mission only is to go up river and spawn. Yeah. They're not eating. So really what it is, it's called, I found out it's called flossing. It's just a bare hook on a Texas rig. We just cast it out in the current, let it go down, and then whether you have a bite or not, you're going to sweep that as if though you were setting the hook. And hopefully that line is running to one of those salmon's mouth, and you snag him in its mouth, and you bring him in. That felt weird because, as I was saying, that's no, you don't do that in bass fishing. Like you're prohibited from doing that.
Yeah.
So it takes the fun away from figuring the bite out. It does save you money. Like all you need is a bare hook. Yeah, you don't need to whopper, plopper, chatterbaits. It's like just a line and a hook and a weight. What I would say that I found interesting is once you hook it, that fight is so intimate in the sense that you have to do a specific things to land that fish. Like one of them is like, we do in bass fishing, they always say don't lift the rod because they can spit the hook, they can spit the hook. And that happens. Yeah. But in sockeye salmon, as soon as you lift the rod tip, that's gone. Like I found it like that is like 99% of the time. You lift that rod tip, that thing's gone. So I thought it was interesting because you have so you do the sweep, you set the hook, and then you have to without lifting your rod tip, switch your hands to upriver. And once you switch your hands to upriver, it's funny because that fish, what I was told is he forgets it is being hooked, and he just starts making its way straight at you. He's just going okay, let me keep fishing upriver. Whatever tension I felt, I don't feel it anymore, so I can continue going upriver. So it'll come directly to you. Once it's at you, you can just net it or bring it off inshore, I guess.
It's a pretty neat experience seeing all those salmon go upstream.
Yeah.
And it's not just 10 fish. It's these schools of them. There's and they're all just fighting their way up, and you'll see the birds. One of the big things I remember seeing out west was all of the eagles. The eagles would literally line the shores, and they come down and just boom, eating, boom, eating, boom, eating. And you're just and you just see, I would say over 100 bald eagles just. Something you would, people are oh my God, I saw one. It's you go to BC, go sit on a river when the salmon are racing up the river, and you'll see hundreds of eagles, all sorts of wildlife, and then you got all the people out there who are fishing for them. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty cool experience. Especially I bet in Alaska, the scenery has got to be pretty awesome, dude.
It's amazing. It is crowded though. I don't. That's the only thing. It's if we get upset in bass fishing with somebody, gets in our area.
Yeah,
that mentality over there. You're literally shoulder to shoulder with 100 people. There's no way around it. The first time I was I don't want to do this. Are you crazy? Look at this back. It's full of people. But then once you get used to it, but it was yeah, this in bass fishing, this would now be cool. Because literally, you see a shoreline, literally, dozen, 30, depending on how wide or how long the shoreline is, literally, you'd be shoulder to shoulder with 50 people or more, just doing the same thing. Just casting, let it run, casting, let the line run. It's the solitude of fishing where you're doing kayak bass fishing, where we might go upriver or some area where bass boat doesn't go. That's not there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think, I don't know. Is there a way to incorporate kayak fishing into that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's people that do it,
That was interesting. Everything, what I learned in Alaska, everything is super expensive. I guess because of the import charges. Bringing everything up to Alaska.
Yeah, that makes
Everything
sense.
Alaska is super expensive. I'm not gonna compare it to like California, something like that, because I've never lived other places. But everything, like doing grocery shopping, eating at a restaurant, it was like, my God, this is super expensive. I would assume people don't. I saw people in like whitewater kayaks, but I didn't see anybody in a fishing kayak. And I'm assuming it's just because of the cost. If
Yeah,
a
probably.
Hobie Pro Angler costs you almost $6,000 here, in Alaska it would be like 7,000 or something like it's not worth it in the investment
Yeah.
on it. That's what I think.
No,
Anyways, let's talk about you, Adam, and your enough about the Alaska trip. Let's talk about you and how you got into bass fishing. How you got into doing the podcast. Tell us where you're from. How do you got to where you are, and what got you into bass fishing?
All right. Well, I'm in Ontario, Canada. Cornwall, Ontario, but I'm right across the river from Messina, New York, on the St. Lawrence River. Bass fishing. I don't know. I wouldn't say like I was that kid that grew up, going fishing like every weekend. We went in the summers, with my dad. We'd go to the family cottage. We'd fish there. It wasn't until, later on in life that, I kind of got back into fishing. And then, one time at the cottage, it was like, well, I'm going to go in a kayak. I do canoe. Let's try the kayak. And I tell you, it was game over. I was like, this is amazing. Like just the experience. And, so I got into kayak fishing, and being so close to the St. Lawrence River, it was only a given to purchase my own kayak because I was using these kayaks at the cottage. And from there, I just began kind of going out. And I went out like I'd have 2 rods, a bag of tackle, paddle, PFD. I'd go out there and I would fish smallmouth mainly. And I'll be honest with you, like there was no catchboard. There was no cell phone. It was like the basics. And I ended up getting in with this kayak group, and I purchased my first Jackson kayak, which was the Lizka, and I was like sold on it. Like and I still have it till today. It's still my favorite kayak. I love paddling, and I've literally I don't know. I've just kind of, to me, it's like a passion. It's a lifestyle. I live and breathe it, like I just love kayak fishing. I love fishing for smallies. And I ended up just kind of joining more groups, and I fished a couple. I don't do tournaments anymore, but I used to. But yeah, and I kind of got involved with the community. I work with Hard Knocks Kayak Fishing. I'm Ontario ambassador for Kayak Bass Canada. I'm also a Team Jackson fishing team member, and I volunteer with like Fishing for Autism. We just did.
What's her name? Real Mama? I forgot. I had her on my podcast when I started.
Yeah, Katie O'Connor.
Yeah, I think so.
She I forgot. She got married, I think, like a year ago, and
nice.
So I do that, and I'm also the volunteer coordinator for the Kayak Fishing Life benefit charity event, which we just did our 4th year over at it's White Lake in Ontario. Actually, it's about, so we're going to go Ottawa, and we're going to go about 25 minutes west of Ottawa, which is the capital. And we raised $42,000 for the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, Tiny Hearts. So, and the One Door. So no, it was really cool. And through there, yeah, I'm a huge smallmouth nerd. There's no doubt about that. I absolutely love smallmouth fishing. I like catching them mainly in the rivers. I like tributaries. And yeah, when it comes to the adventure, I just love exploration. Like I'm one of those weekend car camping, get together with the boys out on the river, whether it's maybe a back lake or whatnot. Yeah, I love it. Like I just like being out there, and it's fun to also fish for smallies, because they are I'm addicted to fishing for smallies, to be honest with you. So yeah, no, it's a good problem to have. But yeah, no, and then I started a podcast called the River Run. I'm known on Instagram as River Run Fishing, and yeah, I decided I wanted to go down the podcast route, and yeah, here I am, I guess. So yeah,
you would Paddle and Fin, right?
Yes, I joined the Paddle and Fin family, as you were once with Paddle and Fin, as I remember listening to you on it. And yeah, so it's super cool. I'm excited to be here with Paddle and Fin, but I'm also really excited to be on the podcast. Like this is super cool. Looks I've always I gotta say one thing. I'm really interested in these Douglas rods. I've been watching and seeing all the reviews and whatnot. So I'm hoping at some point to check out the Air series. It seems pretty neat, and the guys over at Dark Horse Tackle, I used to have a pretty sweet little subscription with them. It's like what those guys are doing. It's super cool. Like Metal Jones and Josh, like those guys are from taking it to what it is now. Like it's really cool to see that, and it's also neat that they do they focus more on like the small business side, not the big name brands that you see in all these stores. So yeah, no, that's cool. I had seen you talking about the Douglas rods, and then the Dark Horse Tackle. So
it's funny because I was in in my YouTube feed, and I see this old video of Josh Shitwood, who's now the owner of Dark Horse Tackle, making a video of a box, and it's like Josh Shitwood. It feels like he aged 2 decades in like 3 years, and it's hilarious.
I bet he did,
because this is this fresh little face with this Goldilocks John B. looking kid making this video. I'm like, is that Josh?
Yeah.
How did I not see this? Yeah, long hair. It's hilarious. But it's funny. I actually took a screenshot of it, and I was gonna text the group with Zechariah and Josh and be like, "Who the hell is this John B. looking like with the Goldilocks?"
Goldilocks there, huh? Yeah, no, that's funny.
Great group of guys, Josh and
100% great. Yeah. All the Dark Horse guys, they're really cool, really awesome guys. I love all the content that those guys push out, and I know they're doing big things right now on the Kayak Adventure series with Drew Gregory and those guys. So no, really awesome, really pumped for those guys for sure.
And the Dark Horse family, like the group in itself that are part of the pro staff, there's no prima donnas. There's just good salt of the earth people. You got Jigs and Biggs, love the cast. Ethan Jett, I think Brad Hicks, Matt Souders. It's just no nonsense type of people, just great people you get along with. It's just the community they built in the pro staff community for Dark Horse Tackle. It's just a joy to be around with them. And I haven't really mingled with them personally, but just on the chat rooms, talking to them, talking about the products and all that. It's just a great group of people. And more than anything, I think that's what I love most about being with Dark Horse Tackle. It's just that environment.
It's community, man.
Yeah, man. The community is awesome. And they do have some, great products for those that don't know Dark Horse.
No, they have some cool stuff. They do.
They have some cool stuff.
They've had, I remember, some of the boxes you could get the Weekender, and they had another Dabble Pack, I think it was called. And man, like they had some sweet baits in there. Like I remember my son and I, we get a couple every once in a while just to try something new, and you never know what you're getting and then you get like, you get sticker, and like what kayak fisherman doesn't love stickers, you know what I mean? So
I forgot,
and like
Dave Urke so there too.
Yeah, and like don't forget about Dave Urke. Like, like he's,
how can we forget Dave Urke?
We cannot forget Dave Urke. Like he's awesome. Like, so yeah, the Dark Horse guys.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So no, it's cool, man. It's definitely cool. There's lots of fantastic baits, and I think anybody who's like getting into kayak fishing, anybody who's just getting into fishing, and you want to try something, and sometimes they have like their like the top water box, or they have the fall box or whatever. Man, it is an awesome way to collect baits, 2, try new techniques, and 3, you're going to be able to maybe even learn a couple things while you're doing it. You know what I mean? Whether you're, casting for largies, smallies, whatever, like, those boxes really kind of cover your bases at the end of the day, like makes it easy for you to go out there and just start catching fish without even really having to go to, a big box store and be like, well, I got to buy this, and then I'm going to need this. It's like you have it all there, and you can make it work.
And it's 2 guys, talking about Zachariah and Josh, who own Dark Horse Tackle. It's still a business, but if push comes to shove, they'll rather lose money in a box by maybe putting too much quality in it and not getting enough in return than bin bargain the crap out of that box. And what I mean by that, with other monthly subscription boxes, well, we're getting, the overstock, the discontinued baits, and we're just gonna throw it in there and get this baits for cheap and sell them at a high end. And they're not that way. They're like, we're gonna pair and we're gonna choose the season that this is going. We're gonna put the baits that would work normally. Of course, there's a huge difference between where you live and where I live. The baits are not going to be the same, but just in general, and the quality of it is like, you may not get as many baits, but the baits that you are going to get are high quality, and it's still going to be like $10-15 cheaper than if you would have bought it separately.
And like I said, you can build some really sweet boxes with it.
You can build them yourself, correct? Yeah.
You can. So if you want, this like the abilities there, and that's awesome because you could put a whole bunch of tackle together. You're building that box done. What tackle shop can you go to and build your own box? You can build your own shopping cart, but that's not really building your own box. You can, you know what I mean? Like it's there for you, and I think that's what's cool about those Dark Horse Tackle guys. Like I've always since I first learned about them, I've always been a big fan of those guys. So
yeah, it is. Well, enough about those 2 idiots. It's just not information. Nah, I'm just joking. But go check them out. By the way, use promo code BKB5. Save extra $5.
Use it.
I wanted to go back to some of the things that we were talking about before we go more in depth about your fishing experience. One of the things that I appreciate about about you and content creators when I bring them to the podcast is sharing a little bit of your knowledge on how did you make the connections that you made, like with Jackson Kayak and other connections, because when I started, there was no blueprint on it, and sometimes you have the best intentions, but you may come off people may misinterpret it. Companies may misinterpret what you're trying to convey. But now that this is, now since the days of the, Guggen Squad started up until now, you see Alex Rod brings a knowledge in that. Wendell Fishing brings a knowledge on that. Chad Hoover, the guys from Kayak Bass Nation, also has recorded episodes about sponsorship and all that. What's your advice to somebody that's, either doing a podcast or has social media content creation in Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, and is trying to, maybe make some money, but at the very least trying to cut their spending on, on all the gear that goes up.
But for sure, like there's a lot of great opportunities out there. Like the fishing industry wants you, right? And if you're willing to go and do the thing, check all those boxes for them, then yeah, they're probably going to be pretty interested in you. For somebody starting out, like, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have, a big sponsorship. Like I'm just a team member with Jackson Kayaks. That's something I'm passionate about. But at the end of the day, I think, just being yourself, like really, like at the end of the day, like just be you. Like this is you. This is who you are. Like, because I think the moment you try and switch it up to be something that you may not necessarily be, or you don't, maybe you're just kind of gonna go with the flow of, follow the trend or whatever it would be. I think, just having you're your own person, you have your own mind, you have your own thought process. And I'll be honest, like I think just go and be yourself. And you know what? I think when it comes to content, like it's a story. Like so how about this? If you're looking for attention and you want people to know who you are, you want likes and all that, for sure, then put in the time and effort to do it, hands down. And my way I look at it is I'm telling a story. So I'm going to share my story. Every adventure is a story in my book. And my way that I showcase my social media is, through what I'm passionate about, what I like. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't like it, that's okay too. That's fine. Yeah, not everybody's going to like it, and that's all right. But for the people that do like it, for the people that, give you love, those are the people that I say, for sure, those are the ones you shine with, because at the end of the day, do what makes you happy. And I think you doing what makes you happy, it shows in your content. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great content out there, but you can see when people just aren't passionate about things, and they're just posting for the sake of posting, and that's where I kind of say, well, there's a lot of great things that I would love to post about, but at the end of the day, I post about what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And kayak fishing is definitely what I'm passionate about. Now, when it came into my role with Jackson Kayaks, well, I applied just like anybody else onto the to join the team, and I didn't hear anything back for a while, because I'm sure just like me, there's probably like another million people who apply. And so, because I'll be honest with you, at the end of the day, like kayak fishing to me, it is not broken by whether or not I am joining a team. I am forever grateful for the opportunity to be part of Jackson Kayaks fishing team, because I love what Jackson Kayaks is about. I love the boats, and I really like the team atmosphere and the way that team members and everybody from like, Emily down to like Chad, Will, Bridget, like it's just, that the team vibe, like we're there to support each other. And to me, I feel like they make me feel like part of the family. You know what I mean? So having that opportunity arise was Dustin Nichols had reached out to me, and he was the team manager at the time.
Great dude.
And dude, phenomenal dude. Yeah. Like he's done a lot of great things, and I'm really honored to have him as a friend. And at the end of the day, like, no, he's a solid human. And he's a pretty rad dude, because like any dude that skateboards, like that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And no, I'll be honest, like it's really cool to, kind of had gotten to know him. And anyways, so I ended up joining the team. And to me, this is like a really big deal, because like I've been like Jackson, I went from being in, couple other kayaks. And then when I got my first like real fishing kayak, it was my Jackson Liska. And through there, it was like, it was my boat, you know. People to this day are like, you know, they still think it's crazy that like, you know, you paddle, like you don't have a motor, you don't have this. And I'm like, man, I just like to go out there and paddle. Like that's what I do. And one boat that I just love to paddle, even though I have like a Bite FD with the, you know, the flex drive, you know, pedal drive, I just love to go out there and paddle, and it's where I feel most at home. And it's just that natural feeling of being on the water. But yeah, no, in the end, it's super cool. And, you know, anybody that's, you know, if you're, like I said, if you're passionate about something, you know, and you're willing to like, you know, show how passionate you are about it, then yeah, there's probably a good chance that like, you know, at the end of the day, they're probably going to be like, hey, like this might be the right person, you know? And I think as, you know, when you're passionate about it, like I said, you know, like it really shows in your content. And I just be you, you know, like at the end of the day, just be you. You don't have to, you know, change everything for one little thing, you know?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I saw, and I'm not throwing shade at anybody. If anybody, not mentioning names, but if anybody knows or is familiar with this reel, please keep in mind, I'm not throwing shade at anybody. And I'm not discrediting what this person is doing. But I saw a reel of somebody that I follow on social media, which, by the way, has a great social media account and is doing very well in social media. But the person was fishing on under a bridge, and there was current, and he was on a paddle kayak. But he said it like, yeah, I can't really, you know, fish this area because of the current. Have a paddle kayak. If any pedal kayak company is interested in sponsoring me, I tag you in this reel. Like he's literally saying it either in the video or in the comments, saying like, hey, and he tags a whole bunch of them. And I was like, maybe he'll get a company that sponsors. I don't know. He does have a great social media account with a lot of followers, but I was like, to me, it's one of those things where if I'm following you, if I'm one of those people that are trying to see what, you know, listening to what you're doing, it loses a lot of credibility, because it's like, oh, no, you're not getting the kayak that you wanted. You're getting the kayak that it was offered to you. So obviously somebody gives you a kayak allegedly for free. You're going to say nice things about it. So it kind of like brings in question your credibility, puts in question, not saying that social media content creator will lie about it. I don't know the person, but I'm just saying from a aesthetically looking at it from the outside, that's one thing. And the other thing is like, you're not building a relationship. It is, at the end of the day, it's business. I'm sorry. Everything is when it comes to sponsorship and partnerships, but it is more of like not a community building sponsorship, like you mentioned in
well, you know, you know, it's funny when you talk about, you know, you see it all the time, you know, and there's
hold up, it wasn't you. I hope you didn't do that, but it wasn't you, by the way.
I can't.
For those that comment.
Current.
That's for those that are listening and not watching. That's Wolf of Walmart, Dave Urke commenting, saying I'm throwing him on the bus. I'm not talking about Dave Urke. Go ahead.
Oh, but yeah, no, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like if you're, and if you can get a free one and all you got to do is post a video about it, then
I'm not gonna
all the power to you,
success.
You know,
but the point is, there's a way to do it, and there's
100%, yeah, for sure. Like there's definitely a way to do it, and you know, I think if that's something if that's a road somebody wants to go down, then for sure, like there's also a lot of great social media out there that actually will walk you through. I shouldn't say social media. I should say influencers, content creators. Like I met a gentleman, his name is Paulie. He is Get Real Bass Fishing. He is up in Long Island, New York, or I could be wrong, and I do apologize, Paulie, if I'm butchering this, but I met him 2 weekends ago when I was in upstate New York, and he was down with his film partner, and they were giving a seminar too, just about like social media and whatnot. And it was impressive listening to him, because like he is like somebody who has like, that's what he does. Like he's a YouTube, like he does YouTube videos, and he's a guide, and he fishes stripers, shore, inshore, and it was really cool listening to him talk about like a lot of this. But like it's there, it's there for you. There's so many people who are saying like, if you want to be pro staff for this, and this, like here's what we're going to give you the tools, to help you, and we can, this is things you can do, how to write, resumes, and yeah, and I'll be honest, like when it comes to me, like if I was going to represent something, I have to be really passionate about it, but at the same time, I have to really have used that product. And that's kind of something that, I can't promote something that I've never used, and it's, and if it's just for like a discount, like I would rather maybe try it and then say, oh, in the long run, okay, cool, might be something I would really want to, pursue. But I could never just take it on and be like, okay, this is what, these are the best, you have to use these, because there's already about 20 million people telling you have to use these baits, you got to buy these rods and you got to do this. And a lot of it is why, because these companies do what? It's like, you have a pro staff of like, X amount of guys, the largest pro staffs around. And it's at the end of the day, it's, make a couple posts here and there, and it's works in their advantage, because they're getting just, this brand on, all these different posts, use the hashtag, do this. And it's, some people are for it. I'm just not. I guess I'm not huge on that. Like I stick to, for me, like I just kind of stick to what I'm passionate about, and I'm passionate about jacks and kayaks. And that's kind of where for me it where it started, and that's kind of my first pro staff. With a company like Jackson Kayak. So yeah.
And it's interesting, right? It's like there's the social media influencers, which shouldn't be confused with the angler, right? Like there's people that just do social media, and fishing is the vessel to use their social media platform, whereas an angler that just loves doing what they do. Joel Swindle, if you ever get to listen to Joel Swindle, G-Man, talk in any seminars outside of Bass University, because I think a lot of those guys, this is getting off topic, but a lot of those guys, when they have the seminars with Bass University, it's strictly how to catch bass. When they're outside of that, it's more of an interview and an insight on how they got to where they are, versus not really talking about how you catch fish. But that's not here and there. But the point that I'm trying to make is like he does a lot of great insight into him saying, I'm not a social media content creator. I'm a fisherman that happens to have a platform, but I'm going to use it as a fisherman, not a TikToker kind of thing.
Well, I think, if you listen, some of them, I'll give you a second there, but some of them, it's really interesting when you talk about people's like views, and when you listen to like how they started, everybody kind of has a different story to why we're here. It's like, why did you get into bass fishing? How did you end up in a kayak? You might have said, well, for the past 20 years I've been in a bass boat, and then one day I decided my buddy had a kayak, and I was sold on that, or like even your one of East Texas Paddle Sports, Lance
McCorder.
Yeah, Lance
Jackson
McCorder.
Kayak team member, by the way.
He's a Jackson Kayak teammate of mine. And I've never personally met the guy, but I have interacted with him on social media. But yeah, like he's he's doing great things, man. Like he's got the shop, you know, he's got the restaurant, and you know, he still finds time to fish all over the nation, you know. So I think that's pretty cool, you know.
It's a wonderful community, wonderful sport to be part of, for sure.
And
let me
community
ask you, yes.
Community, I feel, and I'll say this to anybody, but community involvement, community, like the way that you interact with others, I think that's really important. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in kayak fishing, as much as people come into the sport, it's really awesome. We still got to find ways to keep people interested in the sport, right? Because they come in real fast, and then a lot of times they exit real quick because they're just like, well, this isn't what I thought it was. Or
that's a great point. Yeah,
you know,
go ahead.
I think that as just, you know, for like on a podcast basis, you know, like it's interesting when you do bring in, like, you know, guests from, you know, every guest is different, you know, and everybody has a different story. And, you know, and that's where I think with kayak fishing, the more we share our experiences, and that's something I'm big on, is sharing experience. You know, I love all those fish and grip photos where you're just, you know, yeah, I caught the big one. It's really cool. But I love hearing people's experiences. I love hearing about how like kayak fishing like changed people's lives, you know, how it made them better, you know, like how, you know, they took a total negative and they made it a positive. Like, to me, like, you know, all that stuff. And I'm huge on, you know, being, you know, as my involvement within the paddle community, you know, just to to hopefully inspire somebody to, you know, do good things, you know, do great things. And I think each and every one of us can do it, you know.
That's a good point that you touched on. I think Brian Latimer has said this, and I've mentioned this. I picked it back out of his comment that he said a while ago. Social media content creators don't get people into kayak bass fishing. An uncle, a dad, a cousin, a good friend will get another person interested in the sport. Like, that's what happened to me. I love bass fishing, but it wasn't to one of my best friends took me kayak fishing with him that I fell in love, and I felt that first tug and that first, you know, getting dragged by this big bass. And that's like, all right, this is it. This is 5 years later, I'm still here, and I have a podcast, a shitty podcast, and a shitty social media, but damn it, I'm enjoying the heck out of it. And that's true. Now he has kids, so he upgraded to a boat to, you know, to be more with his kids. Obviously, it's easier with the boat. But the point that I'm trying to make is like, yes, a friend, a family, a relative is going to get you into the sport. What's going to keep you engaged a lot of time is your own self-drive, but there's also the community, the stuff that we do here, the podcasting, the tournaments, mingling with people on tournaments. That's another thing. I didn't have a huge support group for kayak fishing. I only have one friend, and shortly after I got into it, like I said, he upgraded into a boat, doesn't do kayak fishing anymore. So I was like left out of, like, well, I don't have anybody to teach me. I have to watch Fluke Master, which was great.
Gene Jensen,
you know, and that's where the social media content creators are gonna drive the interest. And what we do, like, I've learned from them, and I feel like I enjoy having the podcast. When I started the podcast, I hardly knew anything about bass fishing, much less out of a kayak. But I figured I don't have to talk about it as though as I know about it. I just have to bring people that know about it to come into the podcast, and I'll interview them. And I get to learn from them, and B, I get to help other people learn from them.
Yeah.
And that's what, going back to the point, family members, close relationships is going to get you into a sport. Social media is going to, you know, get you further down that rabbit hole. But they're not, it's not the introductory to the sport.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But I do want to, I do want to say one thing. Like, when I look at podcasts are like listening to your favorite band. Podcasts are like taking that moment, picking up that book and reading it. It's an escape. It's a time for you to just kind of like put your headphones in, or listen to it in your car on the way to work. Like, I'm huge on podcasts. Like, I love listening to podcasts in the morning. Like, get up, make my coffee, put my crappy little earphones in, and I listen to podcasts like Paddle and Fin, The Catch. There's all sorts of ones that I listen to, and I don't just listen to fishing. I listen to everything from positive mindset, just trying to be a better version of myself, in my own personal development. And I think that's where like people like you and I are just other podcasters, or whatever, however the term goes. People are interested, and I think the more like it's funny, like I had a guy reach out to me, and he was like, man, like he was all built up, he was all stressed out about the motor thing. And he's like, I see all these guys get motors now, and like, I don't know how, I didn't know if I really want to do this anymore. And I'm like, dude, and like I had talked on that podcast, with it was the episode with Drew Gregory, and we just talked about paddling, like, and he was like, man, like your podcast, it really, like, it just totally changed, like, this level of being like, I got to get a motor, and it's stressing me out, and I didn't feel like I was going to be a part of this. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm listening to you talk about, you're paddling, like you go out there and you fish, paddle, and he's like, man, like it really, like it almost like comforted me in that sense. And like, you kind of like not reassured me, but you kind of said like, hey, like there are people that still paddle. There are, not all of us are, got to go motor, you know what I mean? And I was just like, man, like, at the end of the day, like, just go out there, have fun, do what makes you happy. And, you don't necessarily have to follow the road that maybe everybody else is taking. You can take your own path, and at the end of the day, you can also cut your own trail. And if you want to cut your own trail, because you can take your own path, or you can cut your own trail. Now, I'd cut my own trail, because at the end of the day, I think that's a little more exciting, and that's where I think like podcasts are a lot of fun, because it's cool listening to people, and you can learn a lot. Like, you can really, there are some phenomenal individuals out there talking about kayak fishing, like Chad Hoover, Gene Jensen, Jeff Little. For me, it was an absolute honor to have Jeff Little come on the River Run, just because, like, I've always been
ambassadors.
Man, I've always been a big fan of Jeff's content, the little stuff, and any chance he got on a podcast, I'd always listen to it. And it was really cool to sit down with that guy and just talk fishing, talk boondocks, talk Torquedo, you know what I mean? And it was just like, man, like it was super cool. Like, it was really neat to sit across the camera with somebody that you're just like, this, you think highly of, in the sense that they're always teaching you something new, you know what I mean, like as an influencer. And so I think it's good. I think the world needs more podcasts, and
it can serve a purpose for sure.
So and I'm sure there's a lot, podcasts go either way, and like Bass, Kayak, and Beers, like I always like the name, and I think it's you've had some pretty cool guests on, and I've listened to quite a few of yours, and even the one that you did with Dave Erke and Brad Hicks and Matt Souders. Yep. And then you had this other guest who kept charming in through the message board there.
Paul,
Jake Harshman.
Jake Harshman.
Yeah, you got. I won't lie. I had some good laughs. I was very entertained
Jake
by
is
that.
Hilarious.
So you know what I mean. Like, I think at the end of the day, we're all doing. I think you're all doing great things. You know what I mean. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like sometimes you just think like, oh, the podcast is like, oh, it's another podcast, but really it could just be like it could just be that thing that somebody needed out there, you know what I mean? Like, change somebody's day, like had a bad day at work, turn on a podcast, like boom, I know what I'm doing. I'm heading to the river. I'm going fishing. I'm calling my buddies. You know what I mean? Like, I turn that frown upside down, you know? So.
Now, some of my favorite guests, and now I'm about to ask you so you can start thinking about who's been your favorite guest or your favorite episodes. But some of my favorite ones is talking to, I forgot his name, Big Gun Bobby. I forgot his name. Forgot his name. It was so many years ago. But he talked about, losing every single dime that he has trying to save his wife from cancer, which he did. Thankfully, she made it through. But I remember the feedback that I got from that podcast. I had people message me saying like they were in a dark place, and then they kind of heard the podcast. Matt Souders, when I had him before he joined Brad Hicks, he talked about dealing with PTSD. Frank Twiggy Reed talk about how he was, went from parachuting out of a plane in the middle of an Iraq war zone to take care of business. Then, get the heck out of there and as best you can, to being the life of a civilian and then being a drug addict, homeless, living underneath a bridge. Those episodes, to me, the feedback that I get from people that listen to those episodes and say, hey, I've dealt through that. I've dealt through, losing a family member, or through addiction, or through depression, or through PTSD. And thank you for recording that episode. Those are my favorite ones. And it's kind of sad. Lately, I haven't got many guests that have to deal with that. But I want to get back to that. At the end of the day, this segment, the social media is called Bass, Kayak, and Beers, and the podcast is called Bass, Kayak, and Beers. But when I started, and I still have it that way now that I'm back by myself, and now with Paddle and Fitness, I have a segment to teach people, which is the Advanced Kayak Angler, which is hosted by
that's cool.
Kurt Smith and Dan Perry. And then my show is talking about people, not necessarily teaching, although we do some teaching and
that's cool,
but more, and it's titled The Real Life. And it's about that, real life problems and how kayak fishing, helps other people.
Kayak fishing helped me. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. Kayak fishing kayak fishing is very big in my own personal struggle with alcohol, and how kayak fishing really helped me in my own personal journey with sobriety. So yeah, no, I talk to a lot of people who are just like, man, like, I'll be honest, like, I had a guy reach out to me and he was just like, dude, I don't know how to stay focused on my sobriety. And I was just like, well, like, what's going on? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I used to go fishing, and now I'm just like, I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm like, well, like, why don't you go fishing? Like, if I live closer, I would take you fishing, And I was like, man, like, just go fishing. Like, just pick up that rod. You got to walk down to the river. Do you just go out there and just be one with Mother Nature, man. Like, just be out there, enjoy the outdoors, take a breath, man. And let's just do today. Let's just get through today. And he ended up messaging me, like, I don't know, like a week later, and he was like, dude, I've been going to the river like every night, and he's like, man, like, this is like, it's like therapy. Like, I can go to meetings and I can sit there and I can go and I can do this, and I could go and talk to people, but he's like, I get out on the bank and I fish, and he's like, the world just stops. And I'm like, man, like, just you there's something. And it's like, he was grateful for it, but it just goes to show you that at the end of the day, there are people out there who are still going through a hard time, and taking that time to maybe talk with them And for me, that's just my own personal experience, just somebody who, dealt with, um, alcohol issues and my own sobriety. And when I decided to quit till now, kayak fishing was something that like I kind of took all this energy I put into, drinking. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to put all this, I'm going to take it and I'm going to turn it into positive and I'm put all, and, that's why I just love being involved and just giving back, because like it gave me so much and I want to give back to, the community. And I like, something simple as fishing for autism, or up in upstate New York with Top Guide, which is like Top Guide Battlefish University, which is a buddy of mine, AJ, and that's his thing. Like he gets vets together and he gets them just to help them with like, dealing with PTSD, just like helping them become entrepreneurs, like give them the skills and stuff to like maybe encourage them to even go back to school, but we all are there for why, as we all have one passion. That one passion is fishing, you know what I mean? And we bring it all together and, just getting involved with that and going out and fishing with some of these guys and hearing their stories. It's like, it's super cool, you know what I mean? And there's just so many people out there that, you see all these faces, happy faces and all of these pictures. And you're like, man, like, I didn't know you, like you were going through that, like it. So yeah, no, I really think it's those type of connections that you can share, as raw as it seems, it took me like 5 years to like make a post about my sobriety. Like I had reached March 4th, 2024, and I'd reached 5 years of continuing sobriety. And for me, it was kind of like this moment where I was like, you know what? I want to talk about it now. I want to share my story. Why? Well, because at the end of the day, I want this to be somebody else's survival guide. I want to help somebody or anybody. I want to inspire somebody, to let them just know, like, you know what, like there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you can do it, like you can do it. Like, so yeah, no, it's definitely, I think there's a lot of people out there who would say like, yeah, whether it's fishing or kayak fishing or whatever, like, it helped me channel me to be a better person, so yeah, as we get in this long scheme of things.
No, and I'm glad we got into I was just mentioning, like, I feel like sad that I haven't had this type of conversation that I used to have a lot with my guests about how kayak fishing kind of saved their life. And here we are talking about it, and you bring your story on how to help.
Yeah, man, for sure. Now
I feel blessed listening to your story, and I hope anybody that listens to the story, because at the end of the day, man, for some, you get frustrated when you don't catch fish. You get frustrated when you get skunked. But every day that you're on the water, it's like your mind is busy trying to figure out the puzzle. Your mind is actively engaged in something that's worthwhile and takes a lot of like energy, emotional maturity to handle failure.
Yeah.
And all that, even if you don't catch fish, it's building blocks to be a better person. In my opinion, I think that's the beauty about kayak bass fishing. And yes, you can apply it to boat fishing and other types.
Oh, you can apply to anything.
Kayak fishing, because it's a little bit more affordable. Let's keep it real. It doesn't have to be as expensive as some of us make it to be with the pedal drive and the motors and the forward facing sonar. It could just be a Walmart kayak and a rod, and you still have fun.
You don't need, like, I will say, you don't need to go down you can definitely go down the expensive avenue. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, then do it. But there is nothing wrong with, other alternative where it may not be the most, the big brand, that everybody else has. It might not be the, it could be the simple Walmart special, fishing
Pelican
rod.
sit in and
like it doesn't. You're just getting out there. You're doing it. Like it's and it could be your start, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't want to invest a whole whack load of money into something that I may not know I will like.
Yeah.
And I think too, like when you get into it, like it does, you know, like I see so many people like just dive so in there, like so overwhelmed, and they're like, man, like I got all this stuff, and it's like
6 months later, Facebook Marketplace. I see it so much.
And then they're like, "Oh, man, I wasted so much money. I'm never going to make my money back on this." And then you're like, okay, well, you're in deep. But I'll tell you one thing. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine a while ago, and we were chatting, and we were talking about this. I want to say it's probably over a year ago, but you can travel, all over the place, and you can, there's no guarantee in fishing. That's the thing. Like, you're not guaranteed to catch fish, because if it'd be called catching, it wouldn't be called fishing.
Yeah.
But I will be honest with you. I am absolutely grateful for every opportunity I have to get on the water. Yeah. Why? Because that's like that time. It's just my escape. It's just like, it's what it feels natural to me. And I can like, I'm not gonna, lie. Like, there's times I've gone out there, I've been completely skunked, you know what I mean? Or like, you didn't catch any fish of any decent size, you know what I mean? But so my buddy's like, he's like, man, he drove like all those hours, and like that's it. He's like, oh man, what a bust. I'm like, no, like, no, at the end of the day, I'm like, man, like, I had a sweet adventure. Like, I met these people. I fished with these other guys that like I've got to know, and yeah, like, boom, it is just a point of being, I'm great. He's like, that'd be such a waste of time to me. And I'm like, okay, for sure, hands down. If that's how you choose to interpret that.
Yeah.
I choose not to interpret it that way. And like, I look at, if you want to raise the bar of failure, for sure, but you can't gain experience without bumps in the road. And bumps in the road might be, getting skunked. Bumps in the road might be not being able to figure out a pattern, or even locating fish, you know what I mean? Or catching little here and there, So, yeah, between the two of us, I would say that, I look forward to getting onto the water. I can't wait to get onto the water. It's been, I had to go to that kayak event last weekend, and I did not get onto the water, but it was great seeing everybody else get on there. So, yeah.
It's amazing. Dominic Don just trolling us.
Yeah, Dominic.
Just get a scope. By the way, great angler, Dominic Don. A lot of success he's done on tournaments.
Yeah, amazing California angler.
Yeah, no doubting his talents.
Fellow team member there.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is that I wanted to touch on is what you mentioned. It's like, man, to me, it's not a waste of time. It beats a day of working. I've had friends like that. They're like, dude, don't you get bored? It's like, no, man, because your mind is constantly trying to figure out something. And
100%.
And failure is part of it. If I were to catch 5 big fish every time I go out there, I promise you I'll be bored with it. I was like, okay, what else is, there's no challenge. Like, every now and then I need, hopefully not get skunked, but a day that I have to work a little bit harder for my fish that I would that, some days have to be harder than others.
I like it. I like that.
And I've said it on this podcast many times. There have been times where I'm like, I know I got this lake that I know that I can slay him and catch a lot of bass. One of them is already gone, Fairfield, rest in peace. That was one lake that I was like, when I go to Fairfield, I know exactly what I'm going to get into. I'm going to catch a bunch of bass, and they're probably going to be quality bass. But there was a time where it's like, man, I have to look for a lake that I get skunk or struggle to catch bass to keep me level-headed, to keep me engaged. Like, if I keep going to the same place over and over again and keep catching the same fish over and over, same techniques, it just gets bored. It's the journey. The struggle is, I'm sorry, the struggle is part of the journey.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of people that don't do bass fishing and go back to that reel from the guy from Terminator 2, that always says, like, that asked the other guy, have you ever fished? And he says no, and he kind of goes on a rant on why he loves fishing, which I think it's like the most well executed monologue I've ever heard that describes bass fishing or fishing in general. But yes, it's part of the journey, and it's every time you're on the water, you should feel blessed that you're out there.
Oh, 100%.
Whether
like
you
that's
do it or not.
It's, I don't know, I just love the challenge of for sure, new water. It's fun. Like I spent a lot of time Google Maps, Google Earth, even the rivers that I fish all quite frequently, I'm always still like, what about this bend here? And at that point where you begin to focus more on your homework, and you understand your patterns, and you're looking at river gauges, and I honestly think you can be successful, and your ability is just what sparks it is within your passion, which keeps you like wanting to look further into it. Like, oh, why did I do this? Or why did I do that? Or keeping like a fish log, like it's at the end of the day, it's one of those things that you just, it's so passion driven, and I think for those who, you're passionate about anything, you're going to put in all the time and effort, to want to be better. And I think personally, as like, for me, like an angler, like there's so many things like I would love to be better at, there's just maybe techniques, like it's, like personal development as an angler, but I over the years, 10 years of kayak fishing, like I look at where I began and I look at where I am now, and man, I can't wait to see what another 10, 20 years is going to be like, like I'm pumped, like, and I just hope the passion never leaves me. I hope that fire is always lit. So yeah.
No, that's definitely, that you hit on something that I've always thought about, is like, well, I've done it for 5 years. What are the next 5 years going to look like? What's that journey? So I'm excited to find out. But starting to wrap it up, because I know I've had you for over an hour. You're in the East Coast, and I know it's getting kind of late for you. I wanted to ask you a few things about your podcast. Which has been your favorite guest or episode that you've had?
Ooh, well, you know what? So the River Run podcast first started back in April. I came out with, and my first guest, he was a good friend of mine, Jay Brown. He's a brother, and I was pretty nervous, I won't lie, and I said to him, I was like, man, I want you to be my first guest. And he's like, are you really? Like, you really want me to be your first guest? I'm like, yeah, dude, you need to be my first guest. And he's like, I could think of a lot of other people. And I said, Jay Brown, like, you're my first guest. So, I don't know, they've all been fun. You know what I mean? Like each and every one of my guests, even my latest guest, Steve Ite, like he's another brother, but like somebody like Drew Gregory and Jeff Little and even Jamie Stevenson, who I'm sure
Jamie is such a cool person.
Yeah, she's super cool. And it was really awesome talking with her, because we talked a lot about the Hobie fishing. And then another amazing kayak angler, smallmouth, where is he? The Mighty Smallmouth.
Oh yeah, I heard of that
author. Book. So his name is Adam Merrifield. He's up in he's in Southern Ontario. I had him on, and man, we talked about his book. I think I just think they're all like in this first season. If I had to pick one, I don't know if I could. Like they've all been great. Like even like Jeff Little, like it was really cool sitting down with somebody like Jeff Little, who I've looked up to on social media. Yeah, but I would have to say if I had to pick one, I thought it was really cool sitting down with Drew Gregory and just talking with him, because Drew Gregory is like, he's like, I don't know if you've seen him do a podcast, but like
I've had him on the podcast. Yeah.
Okay, so you've had him. His whole back wall is trophies and checks.
Yeah.
And he sits there and he just like, he talks and he's like, yeah, I want to hold on. I'm going to show you this. Okay. Yeah. And he's like, you see right here. And it's just like, it's like, I feel like I'm the host, but I feel like he's just like teaching everybody, man. Like, I just honestly, I do that too much with my hands, but I just feel like he's teaching everybody. Like, it's so cool. And like, just who he, like, yeah, it was, I would say like probably the Drew Gregory episode was probably one of my, he had to be my favorite guest. It was just so cool chatting with him, man. So, and he's a super rad dude, and I'm very thankful for him to want to even come on the podcast when it was like, you know, a podcast probably nobody heard of. And yeah, so
yeah, the thing about Drew Gregory, the great thing about it is you don't have to say much. Like, and I say that as a compliment to you for listening.
Yeah,
he'll talk.
Amazing, dude. How much he's
a wealth of knowledge. I always kid around when I started in paddle and fin. I always joked around with the guys. It's like I love listening to Drew Gregory, but I felt like he spoke a different language in the sense that he was so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't keep up with this guy with his information. Now that I've fished more, I was like, okay, now I get a lot of the things he says. So it's a great angler.
Yeah,
for sure. Before I let you go, and I'll give you a few minutes also to shout out, you know, any sponsorship. I know you mentioned Jackson Kayak or any relationships that has helped you.
For sure,
with your experience. But rapid set of questions that I haven't done this in a long time, but I enjoy doing them. First of all, if you are not allowed anymore to chase smallmouth or bass in general, what will you be fishing for?
Walleye.
All right. If what's your personal best, by the way, smallmouth bass?
I'm sitting
either weight or length. Whatever.
Okay, so for length, I am sitting at 19 and 5/8.
Nice.
Yeah.
For smallmouth bass, not bad.
Yeah, and so this is kind of funny, but I took my cousin out fishing. We were at the cottage, and he's like, "Man, I want to go bass fishing." So I was like, okay, and it was like really hot that day, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know how we're gonna do with this." Anyway, so we do this stretch, and I'm like, "We're gonna take the boat, go up," and I'm like, "We'll just drift back through it." And he's like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "Man, I think I hooked a log." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Give me the rod," and I'm like, "Dude, that's not a log. There's a fish on that, dude." He pulls out a 21-inch smallmouth.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I was like, are you serious? But the thing is like, I was so pumped. We got it like on this measuring, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I have a picture of it with him holding it and my son in the background. And I'm just like, wow, like that's incredible. And he pulled it out of this one spot that, you know, we high fished quite a bit. And so I go back there every year to the same spot. But it's funny, like in the beginning, I remember catching loads of smallmouth, and I feel like I've caught bigger smallmouth, like, but at the same time, I never measured them. So like, it was like literally like when people say, "Oh, catch and release," it was like cool, like it's nice fish, right? Back in the water you go. Like there was no 10 years ago, there was no board that I used, you know, like I never had a catch board or a hog trough. It was like, you know, it was literally like tackle, a bag, and maybe sometimes I had my phone, but I never wanted to get it wet, so it always stayed like in this little dry case that I had. So yeah, no, smallmouth for sure. Last year I caught some decent size smallmouth out on the river, and I'll be honest, I was like blown away by one of them, because like when I felt that thing hit, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be huge. And I got that thing, and it was they're not as like to catch like 20s and stuff. They're not, some of them like they just the sheer shoulders on them, dude.
Yeah,
it's like it's unreal. So yeah.
If you last one, if you only had one bait to throw the rest of your life for,
wacky rig. Yeah.
No, I mean that you can't go wrong with that one.
No, like I when I first got into kayak fishing, I didn't really know what to I didn't really know what I was going to throw from a kayak. And one of the things that I always brought with me when I went in a canoe was a wacky rig. And before I could even I could throw a bait caster on a boat. I could throw a bait caster from the shore, but I damn as hell could not throw a bait caster from the sitting position. I just couldn't do it. So in a canoe, I'd go to do it and I'd bird's nest, or I'd smoke the water, and I'd be like, I'd put this thing down and be like, I'm done with this. I don't want. So I'd be like, I'm not bringing a bait cast. I'm just gonna bring spinning rod. And I always would bring is one spinning rod with a wacky rig on it, and then the other one would either have like a chatterbait or like a small little crankbait, and that's kind of. And so I always said like it would be the wacky rig, it's just, I know it sounds silly, it's cheapest bait on the planet, but I guess it depends which ones you'd use. But yeah, no, I would definitely say if I had to, I'd do the wacky rig for the rest. I'm sure a lot of people are shaking their head, but
no, I mean
it is what it is.
If you're obligated to just pick one, that's probably one of the most successful ones, even though it's I know finesse techniques is not everybody's cup of tea, but
I love finesse techniques, so
yeah, they're good.
Yeah, man.
All right, so thank you again for taking the time. I had you for an hour and 30 minutes. It's getting late on the East Coast.
It's all good, man. I really
appreciate it. And again, you're welcome to come and join us anytime. Hope to see you on the water. I've done this. I actually was going to talk about this on the podcast, but we're running out of time. But for anybody that, especially from Texas, Southern United States, I've done this the last 2 years. This year I went to Alaska. Last year I went to the Niagara River. But in the middle of this heat in summer, now I've gone to want to do instead of going to some place in the Caribbean to sunbathe, I'm gonna take at least 1 week to go up north somewhere, where it's Canada, upstate New York,
yeah, man, for sure,
or Wyoming, or Pacific Northwest, or Alaska, and just fish where it's nice and cold. So yeah, I would recommend that to anybody. Get out of your comfort zone, fish for another species, and go with a little bit or not as hot. It's just a great advantage.
Yeah, and you know what, Canada, just as the whole country, it has some pretty cool, unique, diverse fishing areas, species. Ontario alone offers phenomenal fishing, loads of different bodies of back lakes, rivers, creeks, you name it. But it's really easy. A lot of it is very accessible. A lot of it too, you can, if you kayak fish and you join some of the groups up north, you'll find out pretty quick that there'll be more than a lot of people, and tons of people who are like, hey man, if you're ever up here, come on up. Canada, we're just welcoming for anybody that wants to come out and fish. And the St. Lawrence River, it borders New York. Now you can find a pretty good stretch of whether you're in upstate New York or you cross onto the Canadian side. It's definitely all for the you can definitely find some fish in there, you know what I mean? And you don't have to go far. And the beauty of upstate New York is you got the same thing as on the Canadian side. You got back lakes, you got these, it's so cool. It's you got the mountains, and it's if you haven't experienced it, you can really get lost in the Adirondacks. Like it's really neat. And Ontario, we have a lot of really cool provincial parks that you can come check out, and you can literally make like a whole family vacation out of it all, or just straight up go fishing. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of guide services too for it that will take you fishing. I know a guy that just moved out to the Lake of the Woods, where that's like the Jeff Gustafson area, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be starting up his business out there. And that's like right on the Manitoba border. So yeah, no, that's definitely cool. Come on up, check it out. We got a lot of great fun, places to come out and fish, and you can experience a whole whack load of different scenery across Canada for sure.
Yeah, even Wisconsin, that's another place that I like to go in the summer, and I want to go. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Summer, yeah.
I've been up there. That's a pretty cool place, I gotta say.
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
As Texas summers get hotter and hotter, that's something that I kind of like experience.
Just curious, how hot is it down there?
Oh, the last 2 summers have been horrible. I mean, it's always hot, but the last summer was like from the beginning of June to the beginning of September was constantly 100 degrees. This year, there was a week while I was in Alaska, which thankfully I had notifications that there were heat warnings that week here in Dallas, Fort Worth. But now it's kind of cooled off, and I think next week it starts going back to the hundreds, and I expect that to continue all the way till mid-September. So it's hot and sweltering. It's you go kayak fishing till like probably 10, 11. Noon is the farthest I push it, and a lot of times I can't even record because the GoPros start overheating by 10.
Wow!
So that I can't do much content, which kind of sucks.
Wow,
it's weird. It's funny because for you, like, content suffers in winter, content suffers for me in summer.
Yeah,
like,
man.
My GoPro's not lasting past 10 a.m.
I keep I have like, I don't know, a lot of content that I got all summer long, and it's like I go through, I'm like fishing, I'll put a post up here and there, and then it's like the wintertime, I'm like still trying to figure out where I left off, like you're like, oh, I was here, yeah, we definitely get like where we are, like we get more humidity, but if you want to get out of the high heat, definitely,
oh yeah,
the West Coast is, it's definitely pretty cool in that mountain air. So
definitely. All right, I'll give you a few minutes to shout out anybody you want to shout out. I know you mentioned.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to the Jackson Kayak fishing team. Jackson Kayaks, you guys rock. Big shout out to the Paddle and Fin, Dubro Fishing, Kayak Pass Canada guys and girls, the Hard Knocks Kayak Fishing crew, Steve, Warren, Matt, and yeah, like it's I feel like I've covered the basis there. Definitely check out the River Run podcast. It's on all the socials. I just actually got it up onto Instagram, and I started the page on Facebook, so you can find it there. Give me a couple of days on the Instagram one, as I'm still working through it, because I've been posting on like my own socials, and then so now I need to figure out how I'm going to put it all over on the but that's not a problem. We can figure that out. But yeah, no, definitely. Check out some groups, Hard Knocks, Kayak Bass Canada, and yeah, definitely those are 2 ones to check out. And yeah, no, definitely really appreciate coming on the podcast, which is been it's been a lot of fun. It's great chatting. Like I've been following you for a while on your on the socials, and it's really cool to sit down. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to come on tonight. It's cool. I always like doing these. These are fun. So yeah, man, it's been awesome.
No, you're welcome anytime. And if you talk to Susie, Dustin, and the OG Brian Chiller, I love those people. Tell them big hugs to all of them out there in Paddle and
Of
Fin.
course, of
I'd
course.
love to see Paddle and Fin keep having success. So many of us kind of got started with Paddle and Fin, and
Yeah,
so
I think
much to
that's
Paddle
so
and Fin
cool.
and Brian Schiller for his mentoring. So I hope to see
Yeah,
Brian Schiller in ICAST
I
this year. Are you going to
believe.
be in ICAST by any chance? I know it's a
No,
drive for you.
I'm not. I'm not going to be in ICAST, but I will have an episode coming out next week for ICAST. So
Nice.
yeah, so
Same here. So for those that are watching, I probably or listening, I'm probably going to head out to ICAST for one day. I'll probably go Wednesday morning, return Wednesday night, and hopefully next Thursday, the episode is going to be about what I saw in ICAST. So
how far does it take you? Like, how long does it take you to get to ICAST?
I'm just going to fly over there. So I've mentioned this on
nice.
my podcast before. I retired as an American Airlines customer service agent.
Yeah.
So I can fly for free as long as there's room.
Oh,
on the
that's
flight.
cool.
So I'll just fly over there, go to ICAST, and then fly back probably the same day. So it really doesn't cost me anything. And Douglas is nice enough to pay for my entry into ICAST, which I really appreciate. It's part of what we were talking about, sponsorships and partnerships with people that believe in you as much as you believe in them.
100%, man. You gotta have that support back, right? Like it can't all be you and it can't be all them, right? So you gotta support each other. You know, that's the important thing. And just like any like podcast, you meet people along the way, and you find that the support is the support's there. So I always throw the roses for those to support. And it's really awesome, Armando. Like really cool. I really appreciate coming on, and I hope you have a blast at ICAST. And at the same time, I look forward to seeing more episodes, man. And I'm gonna have to get you on the river run.
Oh man, whatever you want, that'd be my honor.
Yeah, man. We'll set something up. Maybe we can talk about some Texas bass fishing. I think that would be really cool. Get you on. Yeah, that actually. Ooh, that's wicked. Let's do that. Let's talk about some Texas bass fishing, because I would actually really like to get into that.
Send me some maple syrup too. I love maple syrup.
You want some maple syrup? Okay. You guys got good barbecue rubs down there? You send me some.
Yeah, we'll do some trades. I'll go over there, take you some brisket. You get me some maple syrup. I come back. So it's all good.
Cool. Yeah,
sounds like a plan.
Okay, it's a deal. Let's do it.
Adam, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and opening up about some of the struggles and how that wasn't on the plan on the episode. So I really appreciate you talking about it. And more than anything, I really hope that it helped anybody that was listening on the podcast that may be going through something similar.
Yeah, dude, for sure. That's, they're just there to inspire, You can do anything. So
more than just fishing.
Dude. Yeah, let's to the river, Let's get onto the river, onto the lakes, get out there, paddle, cast, have fun, take a couple of selfies while you're at it, and hook a couple giants, along the way.
Enjoy the journey. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. And remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram on the Bass, Kayak, and Beers. We do have 2 episodes a week. The Advanced Kayak Angler airs every Wednesday morning. That's more of a teaching technique, and the real life, the episode that you're listening to now, which airs every Friday morning, and it's a live show on YouTube, Facebook, where we talk about content creators and tournament anglers to talk about fishing, how life is part of, or how kayak fishing is part of their life. Check out our sponsors: Norsk Lithium, Douglas Rods, Dark Horse Tackle, Catch Outdoors, and Mariner Sales. And again, thank you for watching, listening. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you don't mind. And that's it. We're your PFDs, everyone. Peace out.
Peace.